Okay, here we go. So today, let me see what we're going to do. I wanted to review the haplogroups because I had an update on the haplogroup assignments to the sons of Japheth. It's a little bit of change, a little bit different. Of course, it's all in the same, K to T through T group. So they're still Eurasians. I just reassigned the haplogroups within the Eurasian structure. But before I do that, I would like to address this little thing about the breakup of the continents, which to me is very interesting because they had an AIG video about over a week ago now that they had an interesting find there. I mean, it's a scientific find. It's not an AIG find. They show the paper. They give the paper and everything where it's at. But without wasting too much time, let's go ahead and go to the video tape. Okay, so let's go to the videotape. Here we go. We'll just go over here. Matching dinosaur footprints found on opposite sides of the ocean. Now, if anybody's been following me, that just falls right in line with exactly what I've been saying. Okay, here's the paper right here. Matching dinosaur footprints found on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean. EurekaAlert.org news release. And they show it in the video as well. I mean, they show a little picture of it. So let's just go ahead. Oh, I didn't even, I forgot. I got to redo the sound thing because it's not, the screen share doesn't have the sound in it. So I got to, let me see, remove. I got to stop screen. Hello, Sea Science. How you doing? God bless. Good Friday. Yeah, it's a nice Friday. Yeah, I saw the dinosaur footprint article, Leaky Foundation. Oops, there we go. So funny. There's Doki Doki too. Doki Doki. Bible Club. But I'm having my computer's a little bit slow, obviously, apparently. So let me go to, I'm going to stop the share screen here. How do I X this out? I'll just stop screen. Okay, now I got to present again because I didn't do it right. Share screen. This screen. That screen. The other screen. Where'd it go? Come on. Did I do it wrong? Okay, entire screen. This entire screen. With the audio. I gotta have the audio turned on, otherwise we're not gonna hear the video. Okay. Now we're good. Let's go to the video now. We're sharing. Okay, hopefully it works. Anyways, let's go for it.
Could dinosaurs walk on water?
Welcome to Answers News for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024.
In today's top story, researchers' narrative doesn't hold water about Earth's original supercontinent. Hello, I'm Avery Foley. I'm here with Patricia Engler and Brian Osborne.
Hey, guys.
And today's lead story here is kind of a fun one. Matching dinosaur prints found on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean. So this is talking about a trackway of more than 260 footprints that were discovered. Half of them were in Brazil, and then 3,700 miles away in Cameroon over in Africa, the other half of the trackway was found. And
this is basically all you need to hear. That's all I need to hear. Obviously, the tracks were made and the footprints were, the sediments were laid down, the footprints were made, and then the layers broke apart. It's really quite clear. Let's see what they have to say here. I find it amusing that they would even talk about this, but anyways, let's go ahead and watch.
the researchers say they're almost identical. They're similar in all different levels of composition, in the layer that they're in, all of that. So kind of a neat find. And so then the article goes on to talk about how in the evolutionary worldview, how the continents slowly broke apart. And that's how we have this trackway separated by now 3,700 miles and the entire South Atlantic Ocean. But in a biblical worldview, we have a little bit of a different understanding of this. What are you going to talk about that, Patricia?
Yeah, so biblically speaking, we would expect that those fossils and rock layers were not laid down slowly over millions of years, but rapidly in the global flood. So what the fossil record is a record of flood burial. So do these tracks really mesh with that?
No, not really. You were just telling us before the show that you went to a lake recently and walked by the lake and left footprints behind, like by the lake shore.
Yeah,
right?
so I'm expecting that millions of years from now, people will find my footprints fossilized on opposite sides of the new continent.
It'll be incredible. Yeah. Yes. No, footprints
not
don't
quite
typically.
how fossilization works.
Yeah, no, footprints don't typically fossilize. To fossilize a footprint, you need very unique, rapid conditions. You need kind of a mud sediment full of minerals. You make the impressions like a footprint. Then you got to actually bury that impression quickly to protect it from erosion, from water, or from wind, or something like that, and give it a chance to fossilize and turn to stone, if you will. And so it's usually a rapid laying down of one layer of mud and then another one right on top of that to protect it from erosion and other factors. It's a rapid process. And so the fact that we find footprints at all screams a rapid formation for these rock layers, not a slow, gradual one, as the speculists would suggest. Most of the footprints they're talking about here, I believe, are the theropod dinosaurs, T-Rex class, those sorts of things. And yeah, the fact that we find them on different continents is an amazing confirmation of the biblical worldview. A lot of Christians don't realize the Bible seems to imply one original supercontinent from the beginning. Genesis 1:9, let the water be gathered to one place. If the water is in one place, well, the land is in one major place, one major supercontinent. What happened to that supercontinent? The answer is the flood.
Yep.
The fountains of the great deep burst forth, causing continental sprint as opposed to continental drip.
Okay, so this is kind of like ignoring the point that the sediments that were deposited by the global flood. And then sediments kept on stacking up on top of them. And then those sediments broke apart. Because all the sediment layers, all the track layers are from the global flood. And the breakup happened after the global flood. So I don't know if they're noticing this or not, but they're not addressing it.
So during this time, continents break apart, those footprints are separated, and then we get what we see today, and they fossilize from the rapid events from the flood. So within the biblical perspective, this fits what we expect. It does not fit the secular paradigm of long, slow, gradual processes.
It's interesting because throughout the article they talk about how as the Earth's crust pulls apart, faults form, magma comes bubbling up, and then eventually you have the continents, like you said, drifting apart. About the rate your fingernails grow is how slow the continents are drifting apart today. And we would say this same thing happened, but very, very rapidly during the flood, as the fountains of the great deep burst open and rip the continents apart, rip all those different plates and things. You're having the continents going apart very, very rapidly, not at the rate your fingernails grow like we see today.
Right, and there's tons of evidence for the global flood as well.
Yeah.
Geologically speaking, just the fact that we do see these geological continuities all over the world, planation surfaces, marine fossils buried in these rock layers laid down by water all over the earth, even on top of mountains. And we do have a book called Flood of Evidence, where you can, it's basically like our 5th answers book, so you can get all kinds of answers to questions about the flood, as well as the ark that God instructed Noah to build.
Yeah,
so definitely encourage you to check that out.
I guess that sums it up. So let's just go ahead and go back to the other things we want to talk about, maybe. Let's see, we got probably should have restarted my internet. But here we go. We got Here we go, David. We got David. Greetings. Q&A today. I think my computer's a little slow, and I don't know about my connection. It's not too good, but I'm going to go into some of the haplogroups. I want to explain a little bit about the P haplogroup. So while I'm at it, let me just go to one of these illustrations here, which I believe is this one here. We'll just go to this as soon as it comes up. If it comes up at all. There it is. See what there's. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here we have it. Like most of these Y chromosome charts, they don't include the P. For whatever reason, they don't have the P in there, which kind of threw me off a little bit. And besides being here in West Asia or Southern Asia, or in West, East Asia, whatever, they're also in West Asia. They're also all the way over here. So it would make sense that it would be Meshech, because all of these Eurasian haplogroups are in this area. The K of Tubal is here, the P of Meshech is here, and the O of Magog is here, which is now going to be the M and the O are going to be Magog now, and P is going to be Meshech. So, and they're all in this area. So it'd be Meshech, Tubal, and Magog are all in this area, which makes sense. And they're also in Eastern or Western Europe too, or which is called Eastern Europe. But they're in the West, in this area of the North here too, the same as they are here, but it's not showing on this map, but they are there, which I have another map that I didn't find. Maybe I can find it. I don't know. But let me go to the chromosome map here. Is this okay? I don't know. I hope this is good. Okay. So we got an F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Okay, so the P, I don't know why this is like this. Oh. P, Q, R, N, and O. So they have or it's the N and O. Yeah, not the M. Yeah, the M. Yes, I said M. It's not the M. It's the N. The N and the O. L, M, N, O. The N and the O are going to be Magog. The P is going to be Meshech. The Q is Madai, and the R is Gomer. Now, this is according to their locations and their movements throughout history. Maybe I should zoom in on it here a little bit better. Okay. So you have the N and the O, that's going to be Magog. Of course, the N is up in Siberia. The O is in Southern Asia, China, and South Asia. So this O is in the same area as the P, which we saw on the map, and as the K. Because the K not only stands for this entire group, K element OPQRS and T. But the K is also its own lineage. There's a K3 right here. K is also its own lineage, and it also exists in Italy, where Tubal was known to have been. So we have these haplogroups assigned according to their migrations, according to where they were. Of course, Q is the Medes of Madai, or descended from Madai, who asked to marry, in historic literature, asked to marry one of Shem's daughters. So we can expect to find a Semitic maternal haplogroup everywhere the Q goes. And as a matter of fact, in America, it's A. In Europe, it's X and I and W. Well, the maternal lineage. So, and they have an X here on the, for whatever reason, they have an X on the Y haplogroup too, but it's, I don't know what's it supposed to signify, but it's basically the first time I've seen the X, but it's on another illustration as well. But it's, they just have this all mixed up because it's K through T, K element OPQRS and T, and in the middle of it they got an X. So that's just something to keep in mind, I guess. Of course, these are the Greeks. The L and the T over here are the Greeks. The L is the mainland Greeks. I mean, I'm talking about the original Greeks. The original Thracians is the L. And the T is the Elisha, Dodinim, Kittim, and Tarshish, all located around the Mediterranean Ocean, right, or sea. So the T is that of all the sea people, basically Mediterranean sea people of Elisha, Dodinim, Kittim. They're all in the island of Crete and all through the Mediterranean, all the way to Tarshish, which is in Iberia. That's the T haplogroup. The L haplogroup is the Thracians. It was in the area of Thrace, but when Alexander the Great went to India to ride elephants, he basically took this L, so that the majority of this L is in India now, because which is common, as well as the T. There's a large percentage of T in the Horn of Africa because they did trade with Africa. So the Greeks traded with Africa. So there's a lot of Africans in Greece, and there's a lot of Greek descendants, or the descendants of Javan, in the Horn of Africa as well. But the new placement of the haplogroups is going to be, I'm going to add the P instead of P being a general marker, because P seems to be its own, it seems to be its own lineage here according to this, right? I'm going to have the P named Meshach because it's also in Europe. It's not just in Asia, it's also in Eastern Europe. So the P is Meshach, the Q is the Medes, and the R is Gomer. Gomer had 3 sons, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. So Ashkenaz is the northern Europe. Riphath is southern Europe and Mediterranean. So it's the R1b that went to Africa and also went to America, along with the X mitochondrial DNA. And so that's really very clear. And Togarmah is R2 in India. So it's R1a, R1b, and R2 in India. R1a is Ashkenaz, R1b is Riphath, R2 is Togarmah. And the Q is the Medes, descendants of the Medes that went all the way to America, with the A maternal Semitic haplogroup, the mitochondrial DNA. The B is also in South America, but the B seems to have crossed the Pacific Ocean and landed in South America, basically. It didn't take that route. In my other video, I show the route that the Q takes, which is the paternal lineage, and the A and the C and the D, which are the C and the D are Asian or Eurasian mitochondrial lineage. They all took the same route through the Mediterranean when the Medes went up to conquer the Lydians, and they weren't able to, and they kind of like made a truce. They also went through the Mediterranean, off the coast of Africa, and straight across the Atlantic Ocean to Central America is what the haplogroup lineages show. And then from Central America, you can see the haplogroup lineages spreading out north from Central America and south from Central America. So it's very clear that these 4 haplogroups, and probably the C haplogroup as well, which is from Nimrod, crossed the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas, because the oldest lineages are the mitochondrial lineages. That's the Eurasian C and D, and I think even the A, but especially the Eurasian C and D are the oldest lineages in the Americas. So they were there early on. They would be the Olmec civilizations, the Incas, and all those megalith builders in the Andes Mountains. They're all there almost from the beginning. In other words, they had the physical strength, the mental capacity to make these megaliths, which they seem to enjoy doing. So they were all there initially from the beginning. Later on, the R1b crossed crossed the Atlantic Ocean from the Mediterranean, but they went to the Great Lakes region, along with the X mitochondrial DNA and a number of other haplogroups as well, but mostly the R1b and the X, which is also found in Galilee to this day. The X2A, it's the same lineage. The X2A is found in Galilee, and the X2A is found in the Great Lakes region as well. It's the same lineage. It's like almost exact same lineage. Obviously, they separate from there, but it's just a dead giveaway that there was a later crossing from the Mediterranean, because this is Mediterranean DNA. The R1b is Mediterranean, and it's clear that because they're the ones that were mining the copper in the ancient copper mines in the Great Lakes region, because all the Indian tribes in the area have these haplogroups of R1b, the X mitochondrial lineage, maternal lineage, and a number of other lineages they have as well in their populations. So that's pretty much a dead giveaway of that migration. But the first migration was to Central America from the Mediterranean, and it was the Q haplogroup and probably the C haplogroup as well, which is all the way, C is Hamitic, right? So the C haplogroup here is also found in America, probably the reason why the Olmecs look Polynesian, because the Polynesians have a C2 lineage. They have the C2 lineage, which is a separate lineage from the one in America, which is C3. But it's still the same common ancestor. So that could explain the Polynesian appearance of the Olmecs in Central America. And to this day, the C haplogroup is there in the Waorani Indians, the Quechuas, and the Wayu tribes. And they used to be uncontacted wild tribes, savage tribes when I was a kid. And There's a whole big story around that as well. But anyways, they have the C haplogroup, descendants from Nimrod. And they try to say that everybody is descended from these lineages that are supposed to be the older lineages, but it's not that one is descended from the other. It's that, and this is following the SNP markers. These are all SNP markers. But it's not that the C and the F, it's not that the F descended from the C, because here's this CDF marker, and here's a CF marker. It's not that the F descended from the C, it's that the C and the F and the rest of the population have the same common ancestor that they share. They share a common ancestor. Of course, the common ancestor of the C and F would be Noah, because C is descended from Ham, and the F is descended from Shem, and it'd be FGHIJK. Okay, so now they have these markers of the GHIJK elemental PQRS and T. In other words, everybody with these markers, GHIJK elemental PQRS and T, have this marker. So they're trying to say that, well, all these descended from the F. But that's not the fact. Fact is that they have the same common ancestor. Because when you come over here, this is the lineage identified as the lineage of Arphaxad, which is the IJ marker. So all Jews and Arabs are descended from this IJ lineage of Arphaxad. Him being the oldest son shares this marker, where's the IJK? This would be the IJK marker right here. So the Jews and the Arabs share an SNP marker in common with their uncle Japheth, and they can share the same marker with their uncle Japheth because, of course, Shem is their father. So Shem and Japheth both had this marker here, and instead of gaining a marker from left to right, my suggestion is that they're losing the marker going from right to left. So this would be the oldest lineage here. The IJ lineage is the oldest one, which is the reason why he can share a marker with his uncle Japheth, because, of course, when he was born, Shem had the marker too. But then that marker was lost when Elam of the Elamites were born, the H marker. But he had an HIJK marker, elemental PQRS and T, which all these share in common. But his younger brother, Asher of the Assyrians, didn't have the HIJK. He has instead a GHIJK elemental PQRS and T marker. So this marker is shared by everybody upstream, and that's a marker that the F doesn't have. But then, of course, they have what they call the FT. It doesn't show it here, but there's an FT marker, which would probably be this one here, or you could say CF marker, which is CF GHIJK elemental PQRS and T. So everybody upstream has this marker, but the people, Nimrod's brothers and cousins, don't have it. which would be the A and the B. Well, Nimrod's brothers and cousin are the A and the B. Wherever the A, where's the B? The B's not shown here. Where's the B? Oh, the B. The B's here. Here's B. So the A and the B don't have this F marker here. Separate. And the DE have their own marker. So this CF marker right here, they will often say it's a CF marker X the DE. In other words, it's a CF marker without the DE marker. So there was a split here where the D and the E have a marker. So that's why the D can be a Canaanite tribe. Because the E is not just E, it's E1, E2, and E3. So the D lineage, which is of Tibetans and Japanese and Chinese in the land of Sinim, it's named Sinim because of the Sinite tribe, and that's why China is called Sino, because of the Sinite tribe of Sinim. Sinim is plural form of Sin. It's the tribe of Sin, the D haplogroup. So the Tibetans and the Japanese and some Southern Chinese and Andamanese, of course, have the D as well. They are descendants of the tribe of Sin, or Sinim, plural. That's where you get the word Sino from in Sinai. That's where you get Sinai. The word Sinai comes from the tribe of Sinim as well, because they were also in the land of Sinai. That's why they call it Sinai, is because of the tribe of Sinim there as well. So they kept on migrating and basically preserved their lineage as a result, because a lot of the other E2s they only basically exist in Central Africa now. And the E1s exist. I think the E1s were the descendants of Put. They exist in West Africa, all the way over in West Africa. So, but the D2, the E2, which would be the Canaanite tribe, they only exist in the land of Cush right now, the E2. But they're almost non-existent. I think even the descendants of Mitzrayim are more prevalent in the land of Canaan than the actual Canaanites of Canaan, which would be E2. So there's E3 there in the land of Canaan and above and below, but not so much E2. Because, of course, Canaan chose to live in the land where everybody's crossing back and forth, and they were just basically moved elsewhere or lost their lineage there. So that explains that. But the most recent thing now, the most recent development is that the N or Magog, N is up northern Siberia, which makes more sense too, because Magog is in Eastern Europe now and Eastern Asia. So they're in both. Magog is in both places. Magog is where he should be now, in other words, as well as Meshach. Meshach is where he should be too, because he's in Eastern Europe as well. So Bishek is now in Eastern Europe, as well as Southern Asia. And the K, the P, and the NO, or the O, Bishek, Magog, and Tubal are all in South Asia together, which makes a lot of sense as well. So that would be the thing. And the Q is the Medes and Madai went to America, and the R is the R1A, R1B, and the R2, which is most of which is in Europe. Most Europeans are either R1A or R1B. So it's either Europeans are either R1A or R1B, but there's also Q in Europe, a small percentage of Q in Europe, and there's also a small percentage of I, which is a Semitic. They call it Germanic, but it's actually Semitic, the I in Europe. It's a Semitic lineage that's also in Europe, found all the way Ireland, northern Great Britain, Scotland, and basically Scandinavia, all the way through there. So they were like basically the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons. They were actually crossed over from the mainland or from Scandinavia. They crossed into the British Isles, and that's where I get my heritage from, my ancestors from. My particular lineage came from the Northern Alps, and probably followed the Rhine River, down the Rhine River, went up, and then crossed over into Great Britain somehow, either through Scandinavia or somewhere else. I don't know. Haven't been able to follow that part of the lineage yet, but it was somehow they made it to Edinburgh, Scotland, where I can trace my ancestry to. So, which is very interesting, which is the reason why I got interested in this, in the haplogroup study, and it's the reason why I got started identifying C as Nimrod, because C can't possibly be anyone other than the house of Nimrod, which is like basically a civilization in itself. In and of itself it's a huge civilization in and of itself. Of course, the C went everywhere except Africa, because Nimrod never went to Africa, and when they went fighting people, they never went to Africa fighting people. They went to Europe, they went through Asia, they went all the way to America, but they never went to Africa, the descendants of Nimrod, the C. And it can only be from the house of Nimrod. It can't possibly be any other descendant, any other lineage other than Nimrod. Okay, the F has a couple of lineages. There's F1 and F2 and F3 and maybe an F4. So I have them as both the Lydians and the Arameans. So they're both the descendants of Aram and the descendants of Lud. And then the G is the Assyrians. I have as the Assyrians. The H is the Elamites, because the Elamo-Dravidians. Dravidians, the only Semitic haplogroup in the Dravidian population is the H. And of course, the Gypsies are mostly H, but the second largest haplogroup in their population is J2. So their claim of being Judaic is true. They're both descendants of Elam and Judah, which is J2 is basically Judah. Because of the colon modal haplotype, which is another thing I wanted to touch on as well. the Cohen modal haplotype. If I can, here it is right here. So we'll just look at this a second, because a lot of people don't understand the Cohen modal haplotype. So what we have here is very, very, very significant. I don't know if people can really understand this, but you have all these haplogroups here down at the bottom. These are haplogroups claiming to be Cohen, or the priests of Israel, descendants of Aaron. They're all claiming to be Cohen. In other words, there's people with the Hamitic E, M78, which is Egyptian, and the E, M123, which is Egyptian. And then they have the G Assyrians, which are in the Jewish population from the time of Babylon, from the Assyrian, when they're exiled to Assyrian. And the GM37 is an Assyrian haplogroup. So you have the Egyptians, the Assyrians claiming to be Cohen, which obviously they're not, because they're Assyrian and they're Egyptian. But then you also have the JM410 and the JM67, and these are basically some of them are J2, or they could be J1. I'm not sure. I have to check up on that. But you have all these J lineages as well, claiming to be Cohen. And the percentage of the people claiming to be Cohen is lower in these haplogroups. And so the haplogroup with the highest percentage out of all these haplogroups, and of course you have Gomer over here, descendants of Gomer over here, and you have others. Even the others doesn't go very high. But we could see how maybe the J2 would have maybe 20% of them claiming to be Cohen. But now the only haplogroup that has the spike for the majority, which is half the population, or even, I think it's even more than half of the Cohen claiming to be Cohen have this haplogroup right here, JP58. So there's a huge spike, which is a signal, a very, very strong signal that these are the descendants of Aaron. This is the lineage directly descended from Aaron, the JP58. Because, of course, these are Ashkenazi Cohen, these are non-Ashkenazi Cohen. You know, they could be from Spain, they could be from, Sephardic or whatever. But from the Ashkenazi Cohen, this is a huge, huge marker. And of course, the Ashkenazi DNA is almost identical to Sephardic DNA anyway, just with little variations here and there, depending on where they're located. But this is a huge, huge confirmation that not only that the JP58 is the lineage of Aaron, the brother of Moses, but it's also identifying the lineage of the tribe of Levi, the sons of Jacob, the sons of Arphaxad. So this J here is of the lineage of an IJ lineage of Arphaxad, identifying the IJ lineage as being from Arphaxad or Arphaxad. And that is just very clear. It's a very strong signal of what that lineage, the true lineage of Aaron is. So JP58, because it's a huge, huge signal there of people claiming to be Cohen. So these people claiming to be Cohen, of their population, it's only a small percentage of these population they're claiming to be Cohen. Anyway, the haplogroup frequency. So among the Cohen, among the Ashkenazi Cohen, half of them have this JP58, which is, to me, a very, very strong signal. Anyways, I guess I wore that out pretty good. So, have that there. Okay. All right, so let me get back, see if I can find my way back here. What do I got here? Guess I'll get back here. So let me see what's going on here. See if we got something going on here. We have David, okay. Mitochondrial DNAs. Yeah. Put it in here. Mitochondrial DNAs. Please explain to me if Semitic mitochondrial DNAs, who are genetic descendants of daughters of the sons of Jacob today, there are so many empty DNAs and even converted to becoming Jewish Y DNAs. Of the mitochondrial DNAs don't change a lot. So that's the reason why 95% of Europeans have Semitic mitochondrial DNA, which is not the exact same lineage as the Judaic mitochondrial DNA or the Jewish mitochondrial DNA, but it has many of the same haplogroups. So they're hard to follow. It's hard to follow. The only thing I can really tell is that which is Semitic and which is Eurasian. And of course, the Hamitic mitochondrial DNA is L. So it's L, M, and N. The L's are Hamitic, the M's are Eurasian, and the N's are Semitic. So it'd be N, and everything after N is Semitic. Okay. See, this illustration of IJK are Semitic lineages, perhaps N and O are part of Shem. No, anything after K is Eurasian. So that one doesn't show it very well. I have to show another chart that would show it better, that the K is its own lineage. And the I and the J belong to the F, G, H, I, and J lineage. They're really separate if you look at some of these other charts. Let me see if I got it here. Probably have it somewhere. Let me just try with one of these here. Okay, so the division would be A, B, C, D, and E is Hamitic. Then this F, G, H, I, J is Semitic. And then there's a K. K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T is Eurasian. But they're showing IJK connecting or conjoining the IJ with a K. And the reason I explained is because Arphaxad can have a marker that he shares with his uncle Japheth, which is K and everything beyond K. So that's how that works, but that's still not showing a very clear example of that. Let me see if I can go through here. Find a good one. The colorized charts are pretty good. I guess I'm going through the wrong one. Oh, here's one here. I think this might show something here. So we have the A, B, C, D, and E is in green here. See, it's all green. Then you have the F, G, H, I, and J, which is blue. You can see it's blue. And then the K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T, it's another blue, but it's a separate lineage by itself. So the K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T are a lineage to themselves. And again, the P is now Meshech. The Q is still Madai, and the R is still Gomer. And the N and the O, which shows them separated here, but they're the same. They're Magog. It's just that they separated a long time ago. These are the Siberians. The N are the Siberians, and the O's are the East Asians. And of course, the K is Tubal, which is in South Asia as well. So K, P, and the O are all in South Asia. So in South Asia, you have Magog, Meshech, and Tubal all together in South Asia, which makes sense. Because the other one's kind of like, the R's in Europe. Europeans are all R. That's why they have it colored different. And the beads are Q, which are in America. And of course, they're in East Asia as well. And there is a lineage that crossed the Bering Strait into America from Q. But it's only the Inuits. Only the Inuits were chasing whales and seals and stuff and went and crossed over into America. The other Qs, the original first ones that were there that built all the megaliths in South America, all over the place, and they went to Central America. They crossed the Atlantic from the Mediterranean to Central America and spread out from there. They go north from Central America, they spread north, and they spread south from Central America. It's very, very clear when you follow the haplogroup lineages, but not only the Q, but also the A mitochondrial lineage, the C mitochondrial lineage, which is Eurasian, and the D mitochondrial lineage, which is Eurasian as well. So they all crossed over through the Mediterranean, through the Atlantic, across the Atlantic, to Central America, very, very early on, when the Medes basically went and conquered tried to conquer the Lydians. Of course, the Lydians are F, but they weren't able to conquer the Lydians at the time. But they did cross through the Mediterranean. They crossed the Atlantic Ocean all the way to Central America and spread out North and South America, because apparently they knew it was there. They knew the land was there somehow. But anyways, you can't argue with DNA. But these are the breakdowns of the three groups of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So it's A, B, C, D, and E is Ham. Of course, C being the descendants of Nimrod went through Asia all the way to America. And the F, G, H, I, and J is the Semitic lineage. These are the 5 sons of Shem. And the 7 sons of Japheth are K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T. Now, the interesting thing here is that the K goes to Southern Asia very, very early on. It splits up between the M and the S, which the S is probably not shown here. But the M and the S branch off from K very, very early on, but they're of the same lineage, because the only other haplogroup in the area, at least major haplogroup, is K. K is the only one there in northern Australia and the area of Papua New Guinea where the M and the S are. And I guess some of them are in Australia too. But so they separated very early on, but they separated from the K from Tubal. So the M and the S are descended from Tubal in Papua New Guinea. And of course, they're the Denisovan people most resembling Denisovan DNA and other South Asians as well. They have the most Denisovan DNA in their populations. Okay. Let me see. So I don't know if I got everything. Cheese sandwich for lunch. Okay. The G2A, yeah. The G2A is Jews from Georgia. If one father lineage, J1, P58, or JM267, J1, or one Abrahamic lineage, if this means the other J1 or J2 are not Semitic Abrahamic lineage. No, it's the J1s are Semitic Abrahamic lineages. The G is Assyrian from the time when they were exiled to Assyria. So the G2 in their population, which isn't much, if you look at the pie charts, it's not a lot of G2. It's like maybe 5 or 2% or something, depending on the population. But yeah, the G2 is a Syrian population. And they also have a Q from the time of the days of the Medes in the book of Esther. At the very end of the book of Esther, it says that many of the Medes became Jews. So that accounts for the Q haplogroup in the Jewish population going way, 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 way back. Way, way back. But it's a certain lineage. The Q, I think it might be Q2 or something. I forget what it is. So there's that. TM70 is also CHMS. Okay, let's see. Samaritan Kohanim have the Egyptian, the Samaritans have the Egyptian DNA, which is not the authentic Kohanim. So the E is Hamitic and is Egyptian. The M78 is Egyptian, and so they're not the Kohanim, and they don't have a strong signal. They don't have a. There's not as many of the Kohanim are Egyptian as the P58, the J1 P58 has 50% of the Kohanim are J1 P58. So it's very, very, very significant. It's a very, very strong signal that the J1 P58 identifies the Semitic lineage of Arphaxad. Of course, F is the Lydians are Semitic, the Assyrians are Semitic, the Elamites are Semitic, and of course, the Jews are Semitic, and the Arabs are Semitic, because they're descended from Abraham. So, of course, they're Semitic. Let me see. Hammer et al. Identified the colony from drivers. Okay. Well, let me try this again. Oops. In all 21 differing Y chromosome haplogroups, the EM78, 123, the 285, the GP, M37, H, and the IM253. That's me. I'm an IM253, and I'm not a Cohen either. I mean, I'm not even close to being a descendant of Aaron. JP58 and the JM172. This is the descendants of David and Solomon. JM172 because it's the largest group, and the JM410, which could be anything. Okay, and we got more here. We got M67, the M68, the M318, the M12, and then we got the LM20. Yeah, that's the L. The L is of the Thracians, which is kind of interesting. But the L is the descendants of Thracians. The Q, of course, is the Medes. The R is Gomer, so R. And the T, M70. The T, of course, being in the sense of Javan, either Elisha, Dodanim, Kittim, or Tarshish. And the T haplogroup that's in the Jewish population is from Tarshish. So this M70 is probably from Iberia. And if it's in the Jewish population, it's because of the association of the Jew that the Jews had with the city of Tarshish, which is in Iberia. So it's all very interesting, and it all fits together very well. Let's see, cheese sandwich. Very good. Yep. Okay, so I guess that's about it for right now. But it's getting late. I might have to go soon anyways. I'm surprised that didn't have to go yet. But let me see. We summed up everything. Yeah, the interesting thing was, of course, matching dinosaur footprints that cross from Africa to South America, Brazil, as a matter of fact. So these dinosaur footprints start out in Africa and they keep on going in Brazil, showing that the breakup of the continents happened after the global flood deposited the sediment layers, because these sediment layers that the tracks are in are obviously sediment layers, because there's sediment layers below that too. But these ones with the tracks, they were deposited by the global flood. And these tracks continue in Brazil. They start in Africa and they continue on in Brazil, proving, again, of course, to me, the glacial striations in South America, Africa, India, and Australia, they prove that the breakup was after the global flood as well. I mean, this is like hard evidence, especially these footprints, and of course, all the fossils. Besides this, there's other fossils, plant fossils, animal fossils that line up as well between the continents. So the breakup had to have happened after the sediments were deposited by the global flood. So the breakup of the continents happened after the global flood. It's as simple as that. Just like the Bible says, that in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided, lifespans were cut in half again. It was a traumatic event. Everybody isolated into family groups because everybody was scared, and they began speaking their own languages. So now you know the rest of the story. So, if I'm still going, I guess I'm still going here. I guess that's about it. And Shabbat Shalom, and happy Friday the 13th, and God bless everybody. Have a great evening and weekend. God bless everybody.